Good morning. Welcome to operating system class. So in today's class, we will be taking up a new unit that is unit 5, memory management. So regarding this unit 5, we have a plan where this unit 5 will be covering the aspects. The aspects will be one, the background, followed by swapping. One, it is going to have the background information. Second, it will be dealing up with swapping content and contiguous allocations, and it will be talking about contiguous swapping, contiguous allocations, segmentation, uh, paging, structure of page table, demand paging, copy on demand, page replacement, allocation of frames, and trashing. So these are going to be the concepts which a memory management subject is going to be covering. So this we have to take up this memory management with a background as follows. So we will be assuming that we have a random access memory, and the other name for random access memory, the other name for random access memory was primary memory, primary memory, or we are going to call this word as a main memory. This is the first terminology what we have to expect here. One, it is going to be called as a random access memory, and it is the other acronyms will be the primary memory, and the other acronyms will be the main memory. Okay, fine. Before that, we do have another type of memory. What we are going to assume will be the secondary memory, will be the word called as some secondary memory. Secondary memory. So, first of all, memory is going to be bifurcated into two models. One model we are going to call it as primary memory. The other names of primary memory will be the random access memory and the main memory. And second thing, we do have these uh, things which are going to be stored in a local hard disk. That is where we are going to call it as secondary memory. Now the scenario was the things which are going to be in the secondary memory has to be brought to the primary memory. The things which are going to be in the secondary memory has to be brought into the primary memory. This was the primary focus what a memory management has to take up. So we have programs. We have programs which are going to be part of secondary memory, and they have to be brought into primary memory. When they are going to be brought into primary memory, they are going to be called as programs under execution. We call them as process. We call them as process. So that is why in process management we were telling that, that is why in process management we were telling that uh, um, we have programs as passive entity, and we have process, we have process, and process is going to be stated as active entity. Programs are going to be stated as passive entity, and active entity we are going to mention it as process. Now, as far as memory management is going to be concerned, there is one more intermediate memory which it is going to be between the primary memory and the secondary memory, and it is going to have some high speed access, and that high speed access we are going to call here as a cache memories. We will be calling that high speed memory will be called as cache memory. That means the first and foremost thing will be the small scalable items. The small scalable items, those we are going to call them as registers. After register, we do have cache memory, and after cache memory we do have the main memory. we do have the main memory, and this is what we are going to call it as random access memory, or we are going to call that one as a primary memory. Later on, the next hierarchy what it is going to take up will be the secondary memory, and this secondary memory we are going to call it as a hard disk. Okay, so registers are the first entities, thereby we do have the cache memory, thereby we do have main memory, and thereby we are going to have the secondary storage. So this is the hierarchy what the things are going to be proposed. So very high speed if we are going to consider, then it is going to be the register. Next, a high speed memory is going to be a temporary memory, we are going to call it as cache memory, followed by the things which are going to be a processes under execution, we are going to call it as main memory, and secondary storage devices where the programs are going to be allocated. So these are all the four items before what we are going to consider regarding the memory management. So as far as registers are going to be concerned, they are going to use CPU cycles. They are going to use some CPU cycles, and that is where we are going to call it as some clock pulses, which is generated by the cluster oscillator. And these, they are going to have some protection bits here. They are going to have some protection bits, and those protection bits we are going to call it as valid bits, and we are going to call it as unvalid bits. That means memory is going to be taken up like blocks. We are going to call it as disk blocks. Memory is going to be taken up in form of disk blocks. So disk block, whether it is going to have data or not, whether disk block is going to display some data or not, is going to be taken up. So that is where a disk block generates a valid bit and a valid bit. Memory is going to have some disk blocks, and this disk blocks, they are going to have a valid data. Then we are going to assume it is going to be represented with a valid bit. Otherwise, it is going to be represented with invalid bit. It is going to be represented with invalid bit. So one we are going to call it as valid bit, another we are going to call it as unvalid bit. So both of them, they are going to act as a protection mechanisms towards ensuring the data. So as far as memory is going to be concerned, the memory unit is going to be concerned, yeah, we can make a read operation, nor we can make a write operation. So read operation is going to be processed by read request, write operation is going to be processed by write request. So that is what the stating towards the hierarchy of memory is going to be concerned. So first one we were mentioning that high speed registers will be registers. Later on we do have cache memory, and cache memory then towards the processing we do have the main memory. Main memory we are going to mention it as um, random access memory. We will be mentioning it as some random access memory, and below the random access memory we are going to have the secondary memory, and that secondary memory is going to be called it as a hard disk. This is what we have to understand here. Yeah, now we need to store some temporary storage of data, and that temporary storage of data is going to be accessed via the registers architecture here. So before we dig deep into the register architecture and different types of registers which are available in the memory organization, let us start with two registers. One we are going to call it as base register, another we are going to call it as limit register. The other name for a limit register we will be calling it as a bound register. The other name for a limit register we are going to call it as a bound register. So bounding in sense, what is the maximum size of that program we are going to mention. Base instance, which it is going to use the starting location, which it is going to be called it as the starting location of a program. So starting location of a program, we are going to assume it as the base register. Okay. So now here we are going to coin one more term. Here we are going to coin one more term that we are going to call it as logical addresses. Up to now we were talking about physical memory, and physical memory is going to have physical addresses. Physical memory is going to have physical addresses. But now we are now proposing or coining another word that we are going to call here as a logical memory. We are going to coin here as logical memory, and logical memory is going to be spread with a space. Call it as logical address space. So the other name for this logical, we are going to call it as virtual address space. The other name what we can coin here will be the virtual address space. That is where this now the scenario is going to be changed before I am going to tell up. So we do have physical addresses, we do have some logical addresses. So logical addresses, they are going to be proposing the logical addresses space, and physical addresses, it is going to be generated by the physical addresses space. Now let us dig deep between what is a logical address and what is a physical address. So you can see here the physical address space is going to be purely done with the uh, proper memory management, and that too it is going to be given for the secondary storage. It is going to be taken up with the secondary storage addresses. But as far as these logical addresses is concerned, as far as these virtual addresses is going to be concerned, now these addresses, they are going to be illustrated, and they are going to be done towards the compilation of a program or execution of a program. So the program, it is going to be in active entity, we are going to be call it as process, and for this process we are going to generate this uh, uh, logical addresses. The logical addresses, they are going to be temporary, and during only for the compile time, or they can be used during the runtime. They can be used during the runtime, or they can be used during the compile time. They can be used using the runtime, or they are going to be used while the compile time is initiated, and thereby address binding is going to be taken up. Got it? So one clear agenda what we have to take up was logical addresses are going to be generated by the CPU here, whereas physical addresses are going to be generated by the memory management unit. That is first key takeaway what we should understand before deriving what is a logical address and what is a physical address. As far as logical address is going to be concerned, it is going to be generated with the CPU. Second thing, as far as memory addresses, as far as physical addresses are going to be concerned, these physical addresses, they are going to be generated via the CPU, via the memory management unit. So these are the first key takeaways what we should understand before we work with the base register and before we work with the bound register. Fine. So assume that from 0 to 2,56,000, the number of addresses are going to be taken up with the operating system. So assume that this is the part where this operating system is going to take in place. So we are going to illustrate the access memory here, and this random access memory, now we can assume that this is process P1, this is process P2, and this is process P3, and the things here we are going to call it as free space. The things what we are going to mention here, they are going to be part of a free space here. So base register is a register which it is going to indicate the starting address of the program. So the program starting address, starting. So we have this base register. Base register, it is going to hold up the starting. It is going to hold up the starting address. It is going to hold up the starting address of program. It is going to hold up the starting address of the program is going to be taken up with the um, um, base register. And as far as limit register is going to concern, how many memory locations the program is going to be spread, how many memory locations a program is going to be extended, what is the starting address, and how many number of locations a program is going to be done, that you are going to call it as limit register. So it is going to give number of memory locations program is saved. So a number of locations a program is going to be occupied. That one we are going to say it is going to be part of a limit register. Okay. Now let us look into this example. We are going to have an P2 as a program, and P2 as a program, it is going to uh, be from 3 lakhs to 4 lakh 20,940, right? So now you can see this 3,40,000 is going to be the base register, and it is going to spread from 3 lakh to 4 lakh 20,000. So obviously this 1 lakh 20,000, 1 lakh 20,000 is the memory location which we are going to put up in the limit register. We are going to put up in the limit register. So we do have two words as we just now discussed. The first word was we are going to have a base register, and the second word we are going to have bound register. We are going to have bound register. The other name we are going to call it as limit register. Base register, it is going to hold the address of start of program, and bound register, it is going to see that number of locations. It is going to derive with number of locations, number of locations program is going to be spread. The program is spread, that we are going to call it as a bound register. So now assume that we have a program, here, and program is going to start at 100 and program is going to end at 250. Program is going to start at 100 and it is going to end up at 250. If such is a scenario, what we are going to consider is this is process P1. Now 100 is going to be saved in base register. 100 is going to be saved in base register. So 250 minus 100, we are going to get it as 150, and this 150, it is going to be stored in this 150, it is going to store it in the limit register. So we are going to call this, put this value in the limit register. So we do have two attributes. One, we are going to say program is going to start at the location. We are going to call it as base register. Another, we are going to assume that we are going to call it as a limit register. And limit register, it is going to hold the total number of locations a program is going to occupy. So that is the key takeaway regarding the base register and regarding the limit register. So we can see here in this program process P2. P2 is going to start at 3 lakh memory location, and that is what we are going to call it as base register. And P2, it is going to end at 4 lakh 20,000. So difference between 4 lakh 20,000 to 3 lakhs, we are going to have 1 lakh 20,000. So this 1 lakh 20,000 are the number of memory locations a program is going to occupy. So this is all for this slide. So now we can see a hardware protection mechanism, to access between this base register and to access between this limit register. So now we do have a memory management unit. We do have some memory management unit, and this memory management unit, it is going to act as an interface between CPU and between memory. It is going to act as an interface between CPU and memory. Here it is going to raise the logical address. It is going to raise the logical address. The other name of logical address, it is going to call it as virtual addresses. Memory, it is going to generate, or it is going to work with, it is going to work with physical addresses. It is going to work with physical addresses. Now you should understand that the memory, it is going to work with physical addresses, and CPU, it is going to work with logical or virtual addresses. Now you need a conversion mechanism. You need a conversion mechanism, and this conversion mechanism is going to be taken place via the operating system using the component of memory management unit. So this memory management unit, it is going to be an interface which it is going to convert the logical addresses to the physical addresses, or vice versa. That means it is going to convert a physical address to the logical address. So now assume that we do have this CPU, it is going to generate an address, and whether that address is going to be between the starting location and between the ending location. So we are going to say 100. So we are going to call it as base register, and 250. So we do say 250 minus 100. We are going to say it is 150. So this 150, it is going to be part of a limit register. So 100 of a program, we are going to call it as starting address. We do call it as some starting address, and this starting address, we are going to assume it as a base register, and 250, it is going to occupy up to that memory location. So this 150, we are going to call it as limit register. Assume that I want to access a register called as 175 address. I am going to see, I want an address which it is going to be having it as 175. So now the condition was, is 175 greater than or equals to 250, or it is going to make a verification. If it is going to make a verification, so is this 175 greater than or equals to 250, we need to check. So 250, or it is going to say, is this 175 less than or equals to 250? So how do I access that one? That I am going to use this with a mechanism. Use this with a mechanism, and that mechanism, it is going to put up a constraint. So it is going to put up a constraint whether this 175 is less than or equals to this 250th location. If it is true, yeah, it is going to allow. Otherwise, it is going to generate a error. Otherwise, it is going to generate an error, and that error, we are going to call it as software interrupt. That interrupt, we are going to call here as some software interrupt, and that software interrupt, we are going to call it as trap. So software interrupts, we are going to call as traps here. So we do have some, we do have the operating system which it is going to rise up, and that rising, it is going to say, it is built up with a monitor which it is going to totally monitor whether the memory management unit is going to generate the addresses or not, whether it is going to be between the base register and between the bound register or not. It is going to verify. So if it is going to be verified, then only it is going to give an access, so that the program is going to be within the range. Is going to be within the range. Fine. So up to now, we talked about some keywords. One, we talked about memory management unit. Two, we talked about logical addresses. Three, we talked about physical addresses. Four, we talked about base register. Five, we talked about limit register. And then we are going to see whether it is going to be in a valid range, or whether it is going to be in a invalid range. So if it is the address what it is going to generate between base and limit, if it is okay, we say it is going to be in a valid range. Otherwise, it is going to be done in a invalid range. If it is going to be raised in a invalid range, then we say it is a trap. That is nothing but a error signal, and that error signal, it is going to be processing it to the operating system, and as it is a software interrupt, we mention it as a trap here. So the things is going to be generated by the memory management unit, therefore it is going to be issued as a trap. It is going to be issued as a trap here. Fine. Now we do look into few new words after base, bound, physical, virtual. memory management unit, we do now we introduce a new words we are going to call here as an address binding. We are going to call it as address binding. So before we dig deep into the address binding, we have some system programs. We have some system programs which are going to be controlled by the operating system. So we have operating system, and operating system is going to have some system programs, and those system programs, one we are going to call it as compiler, another we are going to call it as interpreter, third thing we are going to call it as linker, and fourth thing we are going to call it as loaders. So operating system is going to have few more concepts inside it. One we are going to call it as a compiler, another we are going to call it as interpreter, third thing we are going to call it as a linker, and fourth one we are going to call it as loader. So this linking and loading, they are going to deal up with address binding. So the number of memory locations a source program has to be allocated. The number of programs a source program has to be allocated, that it is going to be taken up. So we do have compile time, we do have some compile time, and we do have some runtime. We do have some compile time and we do have some runtime. So compile time, it is going to convert it from source to object. It is going to convert from source to an object here. And runtime, whereas runtime, it is going to convert from source, it is going to convert from source code to an object code. It is going to convert from source code to an object code as far as compile time is going to be concerned. And as far as runtime is going to be concerned, it is going to look, the things are going to be converted from this object code to the byte code, or we are going to say, so compile source code to object code and object code to executable code, or we are going to say it is a runtime. So that is the first and foremost thing we are going to bind it up. So binding is nothing but the number of addresses which are going to be created to the program, either it has a link time or at a compile time. So next one, we do have another word here, relocatable addresses. Next one we are going to call here as a relocatable addresses. If the things are going to be done as static, we are going to say the things or addresses cannot be changed. But if it is going to be a relocatable addresses, then we are going to call it as dynamic addresses, and they can be changed. They can be changed, they can be upgraded, and they can be done at any time. That means the things which are going to be done towards a dynamic binding, it is going to be done at runtime. Where the things are going to be done at static, we are going to assume it as compile time. Fine. So we talked about address binding. In this address binding, the first and foremost primitives will be the operating systems, system programs. System program consists of a compiler, system program consists of an interpreter, and it is going to have a linker and it is going to have a loader. So compiler, it is going to convert the source code to an object code, and interpreter, it is going to do it one by step, one another, but the same thing converts the source code to object code. And linking, it is going to bind all the object modules. So linker, it is going to link up all the object modules, whereas the loader, it is going to load these into the memory and prepares it for execution. So linker, it is going to link up all the object modules, whereas loader, it is going to load up the object modules into memory, and it is going to create a arena for execution of a program. So that is what the key takeaway, where we should distinguish between linker and loader. So to do this linking and loading, we have some address binding. We have some address binding, and this address binding, it is going to be generated at a compile time or at a runtime. If it is going to be done at a compile time, then we are going to assume it as a static. And if it is going to be done at a runtime, then we are going to call it as a dynamic binding. So as far as linker is going to be concerned, it is going to link up the object modules. As far as loader is going to be concerned, it loads these object modules into memory and creates it for execution. So and creates it for execution. So before this, we do have hash include stdio.h. Then we do have some main program, and we are going to link up it. So stdio.h is a header file which it is going to be linked to the program, right? To execute your C program, header files need to be called. To execute your Java programs, you are going to say import star from APK. So why we are going to use an import, or why we are going to use hash include conio, hash include math.h, hash include stdio.h. So there are these library functions, and these library functions has to be linked to the program so that our program will be executed, right? Unless hash include stdio.h or conio.h or import statement is not linked to our program, we cannot execute our program. We cannot assign our program for preparation. So that is going to be taken up with a linker. So got it? So linker, it is going to say that there is a system program, there is a C compiler, there is a C program, that it is going to have some C libraries or C header files, stdio.h or conio.h. So that is the actual software, and you are writing your program. So your program has to be linked to that software. So you need a linker mechanism which is in control of the operating system. Similarly, now this program need to be given some addresses in the primary memory. That means some binding of addresses has to be taken up so that your program gets executed. So a loader is going to take that scenario. A loader, it is going to load up all the object modules and see that it is going to be executed. If it is towards a compile time, then you are going to call it as static binding. If it is towards the runtime, then you are going to call it as dynamic binding. So addresses, they are going to be binded to the program. They are going linked to the program. They are assigned to the program. We are going to call here as an address binding. We will be mentioning it as address binding. So during this address binding, we do have some primitives. One, we are going to call it as compile time. Another, we are going to call it as load time. And third thing, we are going to call it as execution time. So compile time is totally static. So compile time is totally static. Therefore, we are going to call it as absolute addresses, or we are going to call it as absolute code. As far as loader is going to be concerned, now we do have some loading modules which they are going to be done at runtime. So this is called as dynamic binding. So one, we are going to have it as static binding. Another, we are going to call it as dynamic binding. So this compile time, load time, and execution time, we are going to use a linker, and we are going to have a loader. So linker, it is going to link object modules. It is going to link the object modules, and loader, it loads the program. It loads the program. It loads the libraries, and see that the program is executed. And see that the program is going to be executed. So it loads the program into memory. This is the primary focus where this loader is going to come into scenario. So you need to see that object modules are going to be connected, are going to be linked so that the program gets executed. For that, we are going to use the support of a linker, and those programs has to be assigned some memory locations, and that assigned memory locations is going to be taken up with this loader. So As far as compile time is going to be concerned, we say that they are going to have some absolute code, alias they are going to be done it as static binding. And when they are going to be done with a compiled runtime, then we are going to say that they are going to be worked towards a dynamic binding. So, so uh, in today's class, we have started up this um, memory management unit. So we started up with the memory management unit. In memory management unit, the key takeaway was we have memory management unit, and which it is going to see that it is going to act a key role between the it is going to act a key role between the physical addresses between the physical addresses, and it is going to have a key role between the logical addresses. So that is the first thing what we are going to answer. So logical addresses, the other name we are going to call it as virtual addresses. So logical addresses, etc., they are going to be taken up with the random access memory, and they are going to be taken up with the random access memory. And physical addresses, it is going to be taken up with the memory unit. And physical addresses, we are going to call them as real addresses, or we are going to call them as some actual addresses. We call them as real addresses, physical addresses, or actual addresses. And whereas the things which are going to be generated with the random access memory, with the CPU, etc. So now we are going to have this virtual addresses, or it is going to be some logical addresses. Now, memory management unit, it is going to act as a interface. It is going to act as an interface, which it is going to convert the it is going to convert the virtual addresses. It is going to convert the virtual addresses with the physical addresses. It is going to convert the virtual addresses to the physical addresses. So that was the primary agenda where this memory management is going to act. So it is going to convert the virtual addresses to physical addresses. That was the primary aim where this memory management is going to do up. So to do this, it is going to mention some hierarchy, that is going to have high speed registers. We call it as registers which are going to work with high speed, and cache memory, it is going to be an intermediate memory between the memory management, that is the main memory, and the secondary memory for high speed of transfer. And if the data was in random access memory, if the data was in cache memory, and if the data was in registers, it is going to be some volatile, so the data will be lost. And if it is going to say non-volatile, it is going to be permanent storage, which it is going to be taken up with this secondary storage devices. So the memory is going to have some protection bits, whether the data is perfect or not, whether the data is going to be occupied or not, whether some address locations has been given to that memory location or not, that it is going to be validated, that it is taken up with valid bit and invalid bit. So the programs what we are going to consider, these are going to be in the main memory, then we are going to call it as process. And the same programs, if they are in the secondary memory, that is in the hard disk, then we are going to say it is programs. So in the basic objective of the memory management was that the data should be opened, and you can make a read access and you can make a write access. So to do this read access and to do this write access, it is going to consume some CPU cycles. So while working with this CPU cycles, etc., when it is going to be brought into program for execution, it became a process. Now you can see a scenario that operating system is going to occupy the high order bits, and the low order bits are going to be assigned to the different processes. Process is going to hold the starting address of a program. We say it is a base address, and how many locations it is going to occupy, that we are going to call it as limit address. And a verification will be done, and an address is generated, whether it is between the base register and whether it is a bound register or a limit address. Yes, if it is true, then only we are going to accept. If it is false, then we say a software interrupt has come, a trap has come. So that is what we have talked about. So thank you for joining the class. So you can leave the class. I'm stopping my recording. You can leave the class. Okay.